Hello and welcome to this weekly edition of Politics Today, and in this programme we will be discussing the Ukraine crisis and also posing the very important question: how should the West respond to Russian aggression in the Ukraine? And we have a special international guest on this programme today, Tuvia Tallenbaum, who is a playwright, author and journalist, and together with Alistair Scot, the UK director of Joseph Storehouse. So welcome to the programme. Tuvia, so pleased you could be here because you've been described as the Israeli version of Michael Moore or Borat with your investigative journalism.
Whatever that means, yeah.
Can you just share something a bit about your background and your passion really, and why as a Jewish person politics matters to you?
I was born in Israel, son of Holocaust survivors. I mean, from my father's side in Poland. They left Poland just before the war started. On my mother's side from Romania, she was in a concentration camp, survived that one. And I was raised in Israel and grew up and studied for the most of my life in the United States. I married Tuvia, a wonderful girl from Hamburg, Germany. Was born in Austria. Mm-hmm. And I am, I'm a playwright. I write plays, mostly political plays at the Jewish Theatre of New York, which I've just found out that if I try to go to the site of the Jewish Theatre of New York right here in this country, I'm getting blocked for the reasons that the Jewish Theatre of New York is classified as weapons, hate, gore material. Which is very, very interesting. Now, I couldn't on my iPhone get to the Jewish Theatre of New York website, so it's very, very interesting. Anyway, so I'm dealing with politics because that's what it is. I'm also an author. I wrote quite a few books, and I am also a journalist. Most of my writing is in a paper called Die Zeit in Germany. And yes, and politics is part of our life because that's what drives everything. So as a Jew, that you find yourself by the end of the day, you're always in the middle of some political issue, on this side or that side, or not on either side or on both sides. Yes, and it's very, very important. So yes.
So what is, Tuvia, what is your perspective, knowing that you've lived in Germany, that both your parents came from Eastern Europe, and you see today the unprovoked Russian invasion of the Ukraine, which is the biggest invasion of any sovereign country we've seen since the Second World War, the biggest refugee crisis since the Second World War. And what is your perspective on what you see unfolding before our eyes?
I mean, there are two sides to it. One, it's terrible. I mean, it's not nice to see it. I mean, it's horrible to see. I mean, people suffering so much. Mm. And the other thing, it's a media event. It's Western media event for the most part. We in the West have been doing just the same thing. We have been bombarding and killing God knows how many people in Iraq. We have been killing God knows how many people in Libya. We have been all over doing all kinds of things. But we have in the West, we have very nice weapons like Tomahawk missiles. When we kill people, it doesn't go like Daesh, like Islamic State, you know, they cut, behead. We drop like huge bombs that can kill thousands of people at the same time, and everything goes under the earth, and that's it. And we are doing it very clean, and we have been doing it. So, I mean, by the end of the day, we in the West have been engaged in the same kind of wars, in the same kind of atrocities, but we don't see the pictures. Our media does not show those pictures. We do not see all the people who died in Iraq. For what? For cheaper oil. It was a business war. It was not anything else. And for Libya, there was no reason to bomb Libya. Muammar Gaddafi gave up his nuclear weapons and his nuclear ambitions. Why did we bomb that place? And those places are still suffering. I mean, Iraq is nowhere to be seen. I mean, as a country, I mean, Libya is shambles. And we do nothing. I mean, it's like, and there are no pictures. So we have to be honest. I mean, I know that at its time when Barack Obama was president, he said that in this century, we are different kind of people. I mean, those kind of things, wars don't happen again. But yes, they do. I mean, it was a question of time. Which country would attack another country, you know, during our lifetime? And that's history of time. I mean, you are people of the Bible. The Bible is full of wars. Yeah. You know, that's human nature. it's always going to be wars. So what happens between Russia and Ukraine is just, it's like, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, I couldn't tell before, like nobody else could tell before it's going to be Russia against Ukraine, but it's always going to be a war. It's always going to be, and it's always going to be, and what I learned, I mean, all the people who attack Russia today, they are the same kind of organization, they are the same kind of news organization that have been attacking Israel for God knows how long. So I am doubtful whatever I hear in the media and whatever I see in the media, because again, it takes two to tango, and there are two sides for every story. And as much as I'm saddened, I mean, Ukraine is a beautiful country, but Russia is also a beautiful country. Look, last year, my editor from the site asked me to go to Russia. And I said to him, why should I go to Russia? I have a strong prejudice against Russia. I don't like that country. In my image, this is the fat bear, that is going to swallow everybody. I don't understand Russian. I don't speak the language. I think that the Russians are the most horrible people in the world. I think they have no sense of humor. And it was in the middle of COVID, when thousands of people are dying there, and there's no masks. I mean, it's like, what do we go? And then I said, you know what? Just because of that, I'll go. And I went to Russia, stayed there for 30 days. I fell in love with the country. I fell in love with the people. And I saw a totally different country than I expected. So whatever I've been feeding myself, my prejudice has been fed by what I read about Russia, how horrible the country is. But when I came, it was a beautiful country and the people were wonderful. I'm not supporting Putin and whatever he does. I don't know exactly the details of the story, but that's humanity. And again, there are two sides to every story. And I'm sorry to say it, we are the last one, we on the West, are the last one to preach to other countries against going to wars. We have been doing it constantly. We always do it. We subjugate people. The main difference is the people we have killed are brown and speak Arabic. And the other ones, are blonde and white, and they don't speak Arabic. But by the end of the day, we have been doing it. So I think before we go to preach other countries, it will be nice if we look at the mirror at what we are doing. The West, as a Jew, has been hateful to Jews for so many years, and it still is. Anti-Semitism is flowing and growing everywhere in the Western countries. So we have to look at ourselves before we preach others. All that said, yes, I'm saddened to see all those pictures. I don't like what I see. Yeah. But I'm not so fast in judging.
And Alistair, what's your perspective on what we're seeing in Ukraine, and really how should the West respond?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, and it's interesting to hear the points of view, isn't it? Because I've worked in Ukraine, in Kyiv, Lviv, and it's like you've just said, it's a beautiful country. The people are great people, lovely people, and it's awful to see death and destruction in the way we're seeing on camera or on the programs. But as we've just heard, you can't really be certain, because there's always two sides to every story. But from what we're hearing, what we're seeing, it does sound like an aggression coming from Russia against Ukraine, which they were not looking for. They were not in any way threatening Russia, as far as I know. So it's terrible. I'm seeing places where I've walked down the streets and seeing it. I wouldn't recognize it if I walked down the streets today or tomorrow, whenever, because there's total destruction. Yeah, we as we've just been reminded, we haven't got a great history, but I think since the Second World War, the West has tried to, certainly the reason for the EU and all these other things was to try and promote peaceful conversations rather than destructive wars. And it's, yeah, I hate to see it, but I look at it from a biblical point of view as well. And we know that no matter what we're seeing coming out of Russia, the heart of God is that the people of Russia should know Him too, just as He does for Ukraine or for France or Germany or UK or any of the nations. So it is very important for us to be watching and praying. It's the kind of the instruction we had from Yeshua when He was here, to His disciples: watch and pray, be alert, do not be deceived. There's a lot of deception, there's a lot of stories, a lot of conspiracy theories and so on going on. And it's very difficult in the Western world, unless you're in there, to actually know the truth. I'm reminded of that scripture in John chapter 18, when Pilate says to Jesus, what is the truth? You know? And I think very often I ask the same. I'm watching something on one channel and it's slightly different on another channel. I'm saying, what is truth? And unless we have that discernment within us, it's very hard for us to know the right thing to do. But the main thing is that we should be praying and supporting those. They need help. There's no doubt about it. The Ukrainians are needing help, and the young Russian soldiers will need help after their traumatic experience. So we really need to be aware both sides need our support in the right way.
One example, I'll give you one example. I mean, it's very, very important. If you know Russian culture, and if you know Putin, the macho guy, you know, and when I was in Russia, this is what the Russians told me, if you guys want anything from us, come to us with respect. Don't preach to us. Don't look at us from up down. That's I heard it over and over while in Russia. And I think that's what we saw on the steps and the months, the weeks and the months leading to this war. We saw the exact opposite. President Biden, Joe Biden, months and months ago, what did he say on American TV? He called Putin a murderer. For weeks and months, they have been putting Russia down and Putin down. I mean, what we hear from the West is, if you don't do what we want you to do, we are going to make you suffer and regret what you have done. I mean, this is not diplomacy. This is not the way nations talk to each other. In the EU, you cannot talk like that. I mean, you are not expect Scholz to tell Macron, if you don't listen to what I am telling you, you know, you are going to regret everything that you ever met me.
Well, we've seen similar kind of rhetoric over Brexit.
But when you're saying, this is not the way to talk.
Of course not.
And there are people should have known that. I mean, we have seen the build-up of the Russian army. We have seen what happens. And what have we done? Did we try to calm things down? No, we did not. Our leaders in the West, with the nose up, send one threat after the other. And if you know a little bit of culture, you know, and you don't need to be a big psychiatrist to see the way Putin, he likes to be a macho and goes around, you know, with showing off his bust, you know. You don't talk to people like that. Show respect. You want to threaten him behind closed doors. But in public, don't do that. I mean, the way the West engaged with this Eastern country, put it this way, with Russia, was with total disrespect. And we have to remember it, and we have to understand it, and we have to learn from it. And that's a very, very, very important thing. And look at us even now. About 50%, if not more, of Russian export is oil and gas. We have not blocked that one. Why? Because if we block that part,
we suffer.
You know, we are going to suffer, which means we are going to pay more at the gas station, at the gas pump, and are waiting. To protect ourselves from losing money, we are allowing these sales to go on. And now it's cost so much, the Russians are making tons of money on us. So what is all the sanctions? What joke is this? We are playing games. We are doing PR. In the West, all we are doing is PR. I mean, you really want to do sanctions? Stop it. Really stop sanctions. You're going to get hurt from it. But maybe that's the only way, maybe, perhaps, to stop the carnage. But this we don't do, because we don't want to lose money. So again, we are talking big. We are talking high. We are behaving like righteous people. With the nose up. We humiliate the other side. And then we look at the mess and we say, oh God, what a mess. It's not, this is not the way it is.
And Alistair, I suppose one of the big questions everyone's asking right now is whether NATO should enforce a no-fly zone over the Ukraine. And we're seeing already the kind of benefits of Brexit, because we see that with Boris Johnson, our government is able to take a much stronger lead, have an independent foreign policy other than that of the European Union. But do you think that a no-fly zone can work? There's also fears of a possible nuclear retaliation.
Well, that's the thing. Putin has put his cards on the table. I mean, he's warned certain nations by name, including UK, funnily enough, but mainly Finland and Sweden, because they're his nearest neighbours, and saying, don't get involved or we'll get you. And he has threatened by saying his nuclear arms are on standby. So obviously that's a kind of fear element which is in the whole world, because there's a shaking going on, but the whole world is affected by the tremor. And a nuclear dispute would be terrible. It would just destroy everything. So you can see why President Zelensky is asking over and over again for the air covering, to stop the flights. But I can understand why politicians are concerned about doing it. Personally, I would say yes, but I can also see the potential risk, because if a Russian aircraft was taken down by the NATO, there would certainly be retaliation, which could lead to total annihilation, and that's the danger. I can understand both sides of the argument, but I totally stand with what President Zelensky is asking, because it does possibly stop the bombing. I mean, it's not going to stop the missiles and other attacks, which would still continue, but it would stop the flights, the bombers dropping terrible bombs all over the country.
And Tuvia, I agree that this situation could have been handled better, and certainly we see folly on behalf of Joe Biden in the White House, but he doesn't even know what day it is, let alone being able to deal with this kind of massive international crisis that we're seeing. But isn't there a day? I understand the kind of Russian sensitivities, but the fact is that only 50% of the Russian people are supporting Putin. The rest are pretty much against him. The fact that he's invaded a sovereign independent nation with a Jewish president. And we also see from the president of Belarus that he's actually, the next target is Moldova, followed possibly by the Baltic states. He's also testing the kind of NATO response and has been doing that for years. He's decided that he wants to cuddle up to Xi Jinping, the totalitarian dictator in China. He's also then helping to help the Iranians develop their nuclear weapons. Isn't Putin a menace on the world stage?
I mean, yeah, look at this. I'm not here standing and protecting and defending Putin. I'm just, of course not. I mean, I'm the last one to do that. I mean, I like Ukraine like anybody else. I've been in this country and I like the country a lot. But, and I think it is aggression. But I don't hear the other side of the story. That's my problem. I mean, we are saying, my first argument is we are not better. But let that. It doesn't mean that you are not better, then you can kill too. It's not what I'm saying. But the other things that I see and which bothers me, we live supposedly in democracy. But the democracy that we live in is one-sided. We don't know really what the Russians say. We don't know the argument of the Russians, because we blocked all their channels of communication. As a society, as a government, whatever it is, we blocked it. We blocked Facebook, we blocked YouTube, we blocked Russia Today, we blocked everybody. We don't know what they are saying. So they are the animals, they are the worst, they are they are Satan, they are the devil, but what are they saying? I don't know what they are saying. I want to know why they decided to do it. I really want to know what the people think. I don't know what the people think. All I know is that some people, a few thousands of people, in the country of over 140 million people, march on the street, against the war. Okay, very nice. But still, over 140 million people. What do the Russians really think? We don't know, because we block the communications. Now, because we blocked the communication of their side, they retaliated by blocking Western communications. So now we are in a bind. We really don't know what the Russians think. Not only we don't know exactly what Putin thinks, we don't know what the members of his government think, we don't know if the Russian men and women on the street think. We believe what they think. We want to think what they think. There was an election, by the way, and Putin won big. We never disputed that. As far as I remember, we didn't say the election was not kosher. We never said that. What do the people think? I don't know. If you blocked it, if we block the communication, if we cannot let people say what they want to say, how can I say that 50% or 100% or whatever it is, the majority of Russians, the people are against it? I don't know. I didn't see the data. Nobody is doing surveys now. We have no clue. We blocked it. So, and again, I'm not supporting what Putin does. Of course not. You know, but at least I want to understand. There is always two sides to everything. I mean, and these are two brothers, sisterly nations.
Absolutely.
It's not. I mean, remember the capital, Russian capital, the first Russian capital in history was not Moscow, was Kiev. We are talking about it's amazing how close they are. They are both Russian Orthodox. You know, it's an Orthodox church. You know, but they both have different, similar beliefs, similar customs, similar churches, similar so many things. So, and many of them are married to each other. We don't really know what's going on. It looks like totally crazy. It is, but we don't know exactly what's going on. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, move away from judgment. You know, you can say if you are a believing Christian or whatever, and you say, I pray to God that there will be peace. In the end, that's perfect. But judging, when we don't let the others speak, when we are not better, I'm saying, you know, I mean, you're a Christian, so you know what Jesus said, you know. The one who didn't sin, you know, the one who was not sin, let him throw the first stone, right? We should say it even here now. Have we not sinned?
So,
are we willing to throw the first stone?
But okay, Tuvia, let's take a step back and let's have a kind of look at history. We're facing the same scenario. You saw Hitler on the world stage, who kind of murdered your family in the Holocaust, murdered the Jewish population. We know that Putin is not ethnically cleansing, but what he is doing is he's invaded a sovereign, independent nation. He's allowing his forces to deliberately target innocent civilians, saying they can have a ceasefire and walk through a corridor and then use artillery shells to bomb them.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I didn't deny any of this. When he did that in Chechnya, did we open our mouth?
Yeah, I must admit.
Very good point.
That was also human beings.
Yes.
That's a very
When he had allowed planes to go above civilian neighborhoods and just kill indiscriminately citizens, normal people, innocent people. Have we done anything? Did we do any sanctions? Did we do anything? No, we didn't do anything. We didn't care. We didn't care. And he did in Georgia. We didn't care. Whatever Putin did up to now, we didn't really care. And that's my point. Can't you see how dishonest we are? I mean, the Chechnyan people are not human beings. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, decimated the people. God knows how many people died. Civilians. For what? For nothing. But we still had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin. We had very good business with him. We did nothing to stop it. And all of a sudden, it's against Ukraine. Why didn't we show the pictures from Chechnya? Why didn't we stop Facebook? Why didn't we stop Visa and MasterCard when they killed innocent people in Chechnya? And what does he do in Syria? I don't have to tell you how many people are getting killed over there. We didn't care. I mean, hello, wake up. Perhaps we are just a bunch of racists. We don't like it when he does it to people who look like us. But the reality is, Putin didn't start becoming Vladimir Putin using aircraft against civilians, innocent civilians, just this month. He has been doing it forever.
Yep.
And we shut up. We didn't do anything. And we continue doing business with him. I'm sorry. A little bit look at ourselves.
I
How
think
funny we are. Hello.
And Alistair, what are your thoughts on what
it's
Tuvia
funny.
said?
I had this discussion with a few people earlier this week about Chechnya, how Europe, the West, just ignored that whole situation. And I believe, without a doubt, Chechnya was a testing ground for him, because a little bit like it was in the Holocaust, Hitler tested out how the nations would react. And I think Chechnya was far away. We kind of almost, even I would have been one of those who thought, well, maybe it's best because it's almost a dispute within the former Soviet Union. But of recently, I felt exactly the same. That's when we should have challenged what was going on. Because even if you look at what happened in Ukraine, I was there at the time when the whole Crimean situation was going on, and then there was the whole stuff going on the eastern border of Ukraine there, and it was a serious war. It wasn't reported as, it was almost reported as it was a couple of gunshots, but it was far more than that. They were destroying buildings, they were destroying civilians, and the challenge didn't go out. We kind of ignored it until now, and I think that he's tested the ground. Remember, even last week or 2 weeks ago, it's only been 10 days or 12 days or whatever it is, he went into the eastern separatist area, which was labeled separatist by himself.
Donbass region.
Yeah. As a peacekeeping force, but within minutes of being in there, the shells started being, and the missiles and rockets started being going right across Ukraine. Surprised me when Lviv, right on the western side, a beautiful little town, was being hit by rockets, and you think, wow, this is, it was serious from that moment on. But the challenge, like we just heard, should have gone on a long time ago. Now it's a very.
But we didn't care.
No,
we didn't care. For those people, we didn't care.
It was far enough away for us.
It's not because far enough. I mean, Ukraine is also very far enough from the United States, for example. Yeah. I mean, the United States is now getting involved in Ukraine. Ukraine is very far not far from Europe, of course it's Europe, but from the United States it's very, very far, Ukraine. But we didn't care. We didn't care.
Guys, I just thank you so much for being my guest. Tuvia, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the programme together with Alistair, and I think you've made us think a little bit differently about being more self-reflective in terms of the West's engagement with Ukraine. So thank you for that perspective. And I want to thank you for watching today's programme. We certainly need to pray for the Ukrainian people, that's for sure, but also pray for the Russian soldiers who are kind of losing heart, who are being forced to invade Ukraine. They've been told a lie. They also need our prayers and support at this crucial time. I also pray that our world leaders, including Boris Johnson and Joe Biden, have wisdom when dealing with this situation, whether to enforce a no-fly zone or not. But it's imperative as Christians that we stand up for the people of Ukraine and continue to pray for them. So thank you for watching this week's Politics Today.